Okay. All right, everyone. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Mentor Model Mentors and Mentees Who Generate Multiplier Effects. My name is Bonko, personal pronouns he, him, and I'm a proud member of the DC chapter. And today I have the honor of serving as our moderator and as well as introducing our guest speaker. But before we get into the main part of this session, I did want to mention that while our presenter is speaking, I do believe that you can unmute, but he'll clarify that as well. But did want to say that if you have any additional questions, comments, additional thoughts, to go ahead and put that in the chat function as well, as I'll go ahead and moderate that and keep an eye on those questions. Finally, we do have a hard stop time at 3:45 p.m. Eastern, so we may not get to all of your questions, and if that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance and ask for your grace and understanding. So today we are joined by Dr. Wu Pham, and as the chair of Elevate, he works with dozens of organizations from the Fortune 500 to government and nonprofit agencies. Elevate is a partnership with academic institutions, and Dr. Pham and his work have been featured on national and international multimedia venues such as CNN, MSNBC, the Associated Press, and many more. So without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to our guest speaker, and please help us give a warm welcome to Dr. Wu Pham.
Wonderful. Well, nice to be here. It's actually been years since I've done an app presentation. Actually, I think the last time I did an NLA actually was I was the keynote back in Phoenix, actually. So I don't know when that was, probably a decade ago. And haven't presented at the Nationals in a long time. I've just been really busy, but I'm glad NAP is really doing such great work. So what I want to do is, if you could all open up your chat box, because this is going to be interactive throughout, and I want to pulse all of you. So. Oh, great. I'm seeing familiar faces already in the chat box. Can you do this? Can you thank NAP and the organizers, Bang, Joanne, DM here, and many others, but can you all put in the chat box? This is both an AV check, a moment of gratitude. So go ahead, enter that into the chat box and thank you, because I want to make sure you're really engaged here, and thank you. Awesome. I see thank you starting to come in here, but I want to see everybody. So if we see 20, there should be at least 16 thank yous. Wonderful. Keep them coming. Here's why. If you want to look at research, actually, gratitude makes you live longer. This study is over 20 years old, actually, that you live, they did a longitudinal study of high school students, tracked them 40 years, by the way, into their lifetimes, and found that they live nine years longer and make $25,000 more per year on average. That's why I'm always thankful. I always go out of my way. Adjust for inflation by today, that's easily got to be 50, 75,000 more. So those who are grateful actually earn more money and live longer. Take care of your health and your wealth. So that's actually statistics. All right, awesome. So here's what I want to do. Since you're in your chat box, I'm going to ask you a question. All right. If you just met someone that you really respect, you adore, you're really attracted to them, and you engage them on the first time, and I want to hear everyone. So unless there's a weird deviant yes, should be all no's. Would you ask them, oh, I'd like to see, I'd like to see you a few more times in the next year. Would you literally say that? Or will you be mine? Will you date me? Would you literally say things like that on a first encounter date? Can you just put yes or no? And there's always some clown there who's really deviant. And so if you put yes, that means you're being recorded, by the way. Maybe I like that one. Okay, thinking about it. Yeah, no, I would stalk them. Yes, that's probably realistic. So yes, if no, but I'll stalk them, I'll accept that as an answer, right? So, and Sean, yes, yeah, so you're the deviant. I see Mike, you're probably the maybe, and then we have a stalker in the house. So excellent. What I want you to think about is this. You should never do that for mentoring, okay? So I see this all the time when someone says, get a mentor, people interpret that quite literally as, will you be my mentor? And that's just creepy. Think about if you're a leader, you're someone very successful, and you're wanting to help even, right? But when someone says, oh, will you be my mentor? You know what that starts to say? I mean, they're gracious, right? People are truly gracious in the end. But think about it this way. It's the same creepiness as a date, and saying, will you go steady with me, right? What? I just met you. That's the first rule of Fight Club or Mentor Club, right? Think about that. Don't ask people to be your mentor. Okay. I want to start with that because even after mentoring sessions, I see people say, "Will you be my mentor?" I'm like, what? What that means is you're asking them, imagine this, to commit time to you for a fixed period of time, X number of times, whatnot. I will say literally in my lifetime, I've probably had dozens, if not hundreds of mentors. I don't always interact with them a second time, even. Sometimes I don't see them again. And that's okay. People assume a mentoring relationship has to be steady, structured, and whatnot. You know what, folks? It should be organic. I mean, if you're part of a mentoring program for an organization, I get it. Yes, they make you do it. That's fine. But I love that. So thanks, Mike. You know how you said awkward, right, in the chat box here, because it is. So first of all, that's what I want you to think about mentoring. I've literally had hundreds of mentors, if you want to put it that way. People have given me advice, helped me. I've even learned from my own mentees. So if you want to count that, thousands, right? So how do you take and aggregate all that advice into your own matrix and complex, you know, in your head? That's really how you should view mentoring. It should not be one mentor, one mentee. And if anything, research has shown, okay, and this is decades old and more research has done it, but the first, you know, major research came in the late 80s, actually. They looked at Black mentors. And you remember this research is in the 80s, so that means segregation people are barely being desegregated in the 60s, right? Mid 60s. You're talking in 15 years, what they found with Black professionals, those who stalled in their career versus those who accelerated their career. The ones who accelerated had one or more mentors. And by the way, folks, most of the mentors were not Black. They were not, you know, so they were anything but Black. Because guess why? How many executives would there have been in the 1980s? And then to be mentored in the 70s, right after segregation, when the study starts, you could not have found that many Black executive mentors. So, second rule, your mentor should not necessarily be Asian. That's great if your mentor is Asian, they understand it. But I'm going to say this: statistically, there are not that many Asian executives. Statistically, there are not that many Asian high-level people. Leadership varies, right? You could be a student and be a leader, but I'm just saying very high-level structural people. So I want you to, you know, since we're all Asian here, think about it mathematically. Executives at major companies represent 1% of the population, whether government or private sector, and therefore, if you think about it, 1 out of 100, and how many Asians are there? If we're roughly, you know, probably slightly more by now, over 6% of the population once the new census comes out, that means that for every 100 people, there are 0.06% Asians. Okay, or I'm sorry, yeah, 0.06. That's right, not 0.6, 0.06. So that means statistically, when you're asking an Asian to mentor you, you could actually, you got to be careful because you could be hurting their career if you're taxing too much of their time. Because guess what? Now they get asked by every single Asian to suddenly be their mentor. No one's heard of this person. They get promoted. You know what happens? They can't satisfy all these relationships, so they can't do their day job. So that's why if you're the white male, you're likely to be more successful because you didn't get asked by all the minorities, all the women, all the people of color, right? So what actually happens, it's counterintuitive. Asians continue to not get promoted, not stay in exec positions as long. And statistically, we're still not doing very well. We're roughly 2 to 3% executives in major companies, right? I think we're about 3% now. You know, definitely a lot better than a decade or two ago, but not much better. So what that means is this, folks: look for mentors who are not Asian as well. There's way more of them than Asian mentors. And don't overtax them. Ask them good advice at the right time. You don't need to be regular. And look at everyone as your mentor. That's the third. And I would even look at books as mentors. Most people read books, but guess what, folks? Why ask someone off the cuff when someone's probably spent a year to 3 years writing a book with the best advice of their life up to that point? So it's ironic that people assume that mentoring only has to be literally organic. It can literally be structural, you know, on a digital screen, whatnot. So that's number 4. Blow up your definition of what mentoring is. Okay. So if you want to count that way, you know, then I've easily had 10,000 plus mentors, right? And that's the multiplier model. It's a way to help you start to rethink this, but it's a multiplier effect. And here's the thing, most of us receive probably tens of thousands of pieces of advice, maybe 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is, plus throughout our lifetimes. Question is, do you really use it? Most people think if I get more advice, I get better. That's not always true. I've seen people get tons of advice and actually don't apply much of it. It's just like collecting stamps and not using them, right? Whereas focused advice, whether in a book, a person, whatnot, that you actually implement is one piece of advice is way more useful than 1,000 pieces of advice that you kind of have here. And I've seen that with mentees. I've seen that with people. They somehow keep help. So I'm going to give you the pitfalls. It actually is the opposite. Then they look like that, the advice asker, right? Who they're always asking for advice, but somehow their career never goes anywhere because they keep asking for advice, but never implementing it. After a while, that also becomes a negative, right? So do the opposite. Rather than focusing on one mentor, you can get thousands of pieces of advice from thousands of people. One piece of advice here, there, this conversation, that conversation, and then implement it so that it also helps your reputation. Because I've seen people, who misunderstand what mentoring is. And by the way, the word mentoring, bonus, if anyone can put in the chat box, where does the word mentor come from, by the way? And if you do know, big bonus. I'm going to give you about 10, 15 seconds to type that in, see if anyone knows where mentor comes from. And you just put it in one word, even though the country, it actually does come from a country, by the way. Thank you. Excellent, Parag, that is correct. Mentor is a character in the Odyssey. Do you remember that book? Many of you probably read in high school. Mentor, where Odysseus was away for 20 years, the gods had punished him. He had a young son, a baby, and his wife Penelope. And the mentor actually was a person named Mentor, who was an old Greek general and who basically raised Telemachus with Penelope, right? Telemachus was Odysseus' son for 20 years. So Odysseus his son Telemachus didn't have a father really with him throughout the first 20 years of his life. He had a mentor. So the mentor was actually a quasi-father, okay? So I want you to think about where that comes from, and that's where it is. So what I want you to do is now this, and you can put as many as you want, but click one at a time, right? One, hit enter, whatnot, but I'd like to hear from everyone. What are some behaviors of an ideal mentor? And not everyone's going to agree. Some people want a mentor who says, just tell me the truth, the ugly truth, whatnot, right? I love mentors like that. They say, hey, Vu, I disagree with you. I had a mentee who just flat out said, we're talking just 2 weeks ago and said, oh no, you're going about it the wrong way. You know what? I don't take it personally. We have that relationship. He just said, oh, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, okay, tell me how to do it right. And it was great because it saves time. It's efficient. I don't have a big ego. He's the head of one of Uber's divisions, and a young climber in his early 30s, probably 6 to 10 years ahead of most people. Okay, and I'm okay. Others want a passive listener, an active listener who's softer, takes a gentle approach. I have all of them. Okay, so I love this. Able to see blind spots, listening, and I'd like to hear from everyone. Right, so let's make sure we all jump in. Right. So I love that. Be my mirror. Well, some really want to see that, right? That things that you don't see. Okay, so I see listening a lot. Of course, listening's a lot, right? But yes, theory can be confusing. Practical, right? Absolutely. I love this. Okay, look at it here, folks. It should not all come from me. If you just look at the chat box, what you all did, that's cross peer mentoring now. Why is mentoring in a position? So that mentee I was talking about, I have periodic conversation with him several times a year. He's become a dear friend. He's in his early 30s. He approached me in his late 20s. I've seen his career boom. I mean, boom. He's an executive now in his early 30s for Uber. Okay, so I want you to think about that, right? But you can all learn from one another. Someone put empathy here, right? Different perspectives. I love that. And foresight, things that you might not see. Not to guarantee they're going to be correct, but look, there are mistakes that I made at a certain age, that I hope someone else doesn't make. And I've learned the same thing. I've avoided certain mistakes at a certain period because others have guided me. Hey, that's success. People assume it's just that you see something successful pop up right away. Well, actually, avoiding making a major mistake is success. All right, then you don't have to go through it and learn from it. So excellent, wonderful. So those are our ideals. And I want you to think about this, folks. They say Asians don't speak up. I want you to look at who's in the chat box. I've asked everyone to speak up. We know who spoke up and who's not. So I'm going to call you out on that. Those who spoke up, congratulations. Those who have not yet, this is a safe space. You should talk, because you know what? You don't have to speak up. You just need to put your idea, but share your idea. Leverage our Asian collectivism. If we're supposed to be good at collectivism, I'm going to say, are you good at sharing and being collectivist, or are you passively listening? Okay. So for those who have participated, if I looked at this, and this is supposed to be a leadership, a leadership summit, right? We've already identified who the leaders are, the ones who led with comments. So if I was your executive or your boss and I said, well, what ideas are there? The ones who have already thrown out ideas, they don't have to be well thought, I'm just asking off the cuff, already have a head start over the quiet ones, if you actually think about it, right? And your idea does not need to be perfect. I'll give you an example. If you don't take a shot, you can't score. If you don't put in an application, you can't score. So I'm going to give you data on Asians, actually. Oh, finally, I see someone join in. Okay, more. Good. I hope I've lit a fire under some of you. There's a study in a major Fortune 500. I can't say which one, but gosh, I mean, they asked how many of you, would you like a high potential bonus level position, right? That's what they call them, bonus level positions in that company. You don't need to be a manager, but those would put you on either the technical fellow track, principal scientist, or the executive track, management track, right? You know what? All the ethnic groups and the women, so the Blacks, the Latinx, they called them Hispanics at the time, but Black, Hispanics, and women, you know what they said about about 90-something% varied anywhere from about, well, actually 89% to 96% said yes, I'd be interested. You know what, the Asians, only 66% said they were interested. And then they said, well, did you actually put in your resume? Of the Asians, 1 out of 10 put in a resume. So you know what? Asians all failed. None of them are going to get promoted. And then later on, a lot of them, even some who filled out the survey, said, why didn't I get promoted? And we're looking at each other going, what just happened here? Okay. Asians don't even bother to shoot, therefore can't score as well. And that's on us, by the way. So as an Asian, I could give you the tough, real feedback. That's just the facts. That's data. If you want data, 2/3 of Asians said this, whereas 90-something% of other populations said, yes, I'd be interested. But 1 out of 10 Asians submitted, whereas the majority of others in the other population submitted their resumes. And this is after their management has said, we want to consider you for a high level position. That's how crazy it is. Now, I understand if there's family reasons, cultural reasons, that's, that will happen. But I can't begin to imagine that Asians are that much different than Latinos or African Americans about taking care of family, things like this. And this is not necessarily more work hours, by the way. Executives can get paid on average 150 to 1,000 times more than the average employee. But I will tell you, they do not work 150 to 1,000 times more. It's physically impossible because there's only 24 hours in a day. The most they could work is 3 times more. That means they don't sleep, which is never the case. So the most they could work is double, 16 hours versus 8, but they can get paid 150 to 1,000 times more than the average employee. So think about that for a minute. Statistically, Asians are knocking ourselves out of the running. So if this is a leadership, I'm going to challenge you. Are you leading by even following instructions, by even doing that? I'm challenging you. That's an ideal mentor. And that's what leads to the multiplier, right? We want to maximize and look at the strategies here. I've already given you 4 right off the bat, and I give you 2, 3 concrete examples from data to actual mentor relationships that I've had, where my mentees challenge me and they'll tell me I'm going about it wrong, and they were correct. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, your idea is way better than mine. Thank you, right? And how do you leverage these mutual relationships to really grow? And then also, you need to look at multiple mentoring skills, to lead that, have that multiplier effect. Because if you only look at one mentor, it's the same, expression, right? If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You know what? You limit yourself to that. And that's why I say I've always had hundreds to thousands of mentors, depending how you track it. I view every interaction as me learning. It doesn't need to be someone higher than me in position. It could be someone in their 20s who happens to know so much more about certain things. And that's where we're going to get to the model. This is one aspect of it, okay? There's a lot more, but what is it? It's a tool to really help you find between your inner self and what you do. So think of it like this. Most people think I need to be like my mentor. I want you to know, wait a minute, find your inner core. Think of it as Michelangelo. there's a concept called Michelangelo mentoring. Michelangelo takes a big block and chips inward to find what's inside, does not add to the block, sculpts what's in the block. So if you take a square slab and you make the statue of David, think of yourself as a statue of David. There's a core that you want to achieve, whether you're there yet or not. Be clear about that. The worst thing you could do is go to mentor and say, what should I be, right? And a lot of questions are like that. The mentors can guide you, but have a sense of where you want to go. That's called vision. Secondly is, then, what do you do, with the mentors? Then the mentors can guide you, but guess what? If you have 10 mentors, they might guide you in 10 different directions. So you need to cherry pick the best of each mentor, but give yourself the permission, the access to have 10 mentors. You see, because if you have one, well, you're shaped that way, right? And it's limiting. And here's a question. I'm just going to, if you look in the chat box, I'm just going to do a side. What if you are voicing out to be in a leadership position and want to be considered, but keep on getting knocked down? What would be an approach to put ourselves out there? Well, that's where you actually want to ask more questions. Thank you for that question. You know what? I'm going to ask, have you asked enough people for advice? When you say leadership position, I'll ask you this: how big's your company? If it's a 10,000 person company, 100,000 person company, that's like literally working for 10, 20, even 100 companies at once. Go to a different division, get advice from that person. Do you realize what happens? So I'm going to tell you this. Did you know there's studies show that when people talk about their own story, so when you ask an executive, and you might have seen this, when you ask an executive for advice, you think that you're taking up their time, but sometimes I've seen their EAs, I've experienced this, they'll cancel the next meeting, and I get 2 hours sometimes, even though we only had an hour in the calendar or 30 minutes. I've seen someone cancel 2 meetings, and I've heard, with me, so sat for 3 hours. They've told their EA, their executive admin, cancel my next meeting, cancel the meeting afterwards, just to give advice. Here's why. Neuroscientifically, when you actually talk about yourself and your story, you actually get more dopamine squirt, basically. People like it. So if you're getting knocked down, I'm going to ask you, have you knocked on enough doors? Have you gone in different departments? I'll give you a chance to answer if you want to, add to that. And I'm going to say this: you might need to go to another company. That's why I have hundreds of mentors. There's no shortage of opportunity. Actually, people come to me to introduce them to other companies. I'm not a recruiter. I don't take money for it. I just do it to people I really like and support. I don't take money for it. It's a love. But I'll tell you, it's reversed. I don't knock on doors anymore. In a long time, people knock on my door. Here's why. Knock on their door for advice, not for a leadership position. If you come asking for a leadership position, executives don't like to sign off on paperwork to give more money. A leadership position means someone has to give you more money and ask for more money, but advice is free. Start with the advice first. Build that trust that you're asking the right questions, that you really want to learn from them more than about your job. And when they see that you really are there to learn and take care of the company, your job will come. I have no shortage of jobs. Actually, what we work on, we are invitation only. We work with certain key clients. We do not knock on anyone's door. I do not work on any sales. It's all referrals, 100%, by the way. So build that. Look at it as really building yourself and mentoring and networking, not about the job. If you put the job first, that's literally asking someone for money, because you got to ask them for a raise. Ask how you can help them and learn from them. Okay. So that's where, again, we said it, getting multiple mentors. And I hope I've answered your question. So if you ask that, go ahead and fill it in the chat box, but I just want to be very direct. That's how you do it, right? You get diverse perspectives from multiple mentors, broad perspective, right? Second one, higher availability. If one mentor is not available, I can call 100. And I do that. Actually this morning, I just had 3 calls, literally. They're all business and mentor. We mentor each other. One's younger, one's older, executives to junior execs, junior level people even. Okay. Not everyone's an executive. We all start somewhere. Right. And so there's more availability if you look at more people as mentors and if you mentor other people. See, that's the thing. If you look at a mentor mentee and you say, will you be my mentor? That could be perceived as a take situation. I'm there to take from a mentor. But if you can think about what perspectives you can offer your mentor, it becomes a give. And so it's a give and a take. And that's how you got to look at it, right? And then you build your network larger, which is what I've been saying. So it's counterintuitive. When you tell someone to be your mentor, it screws it up. You pigeonhole someone, it's like putting golden handcuffs on them, and it might not be golden, right? It's like dating. Like I said, you don't want to date, that only that person, right? For a while, you want to explore. The other thing is to reverse the logic. Mentoring comes from multiple directions, as I mentioned. Okay. So really, oh yes, thank you, Renee. When you said, "Can I pick your brain?" I was like, "Do you want your brain picked?" That zombies do that. I don't want to deal with dead people without brains who are picking my brain, by the way. So the only people who pick my brains are zombies. Awesome, Renee. Thank you. I never use "Can I pick your brain?" No one wants their brain picked, actually. I want to say, "Oh, I'd like to learn from you, and how can I help you?" Most people forget that second question, how can I help you? So that's why I get so many doors open, and I open doors for people. And I help people, they help me, because it's mutual. That's where I see a lot of mentoring programs and a lot of mentoring advice. It's just wrong. I'll say it's wrong because it's one-sided, it's limited to one mentor, it's brain picking, thank you, Renee, all these things, okay? And it's all these silly, weird things. And look, do you want friends who just ask you for things? You actually want friends who help you, and you want to help your friends. It has to be mutual. And that's what happens, okay? So so what you do is you gather the best of the best. That's the multiplier mentor model. Why listen to one album by one music artist, for example? 2 out of 10 songs they say on Smash artists are actually good on an album. The other 8 songs are not usually greatest hits, right? Hits. So why don't you take the best of the best, 1, 2, 3 pieces of best advice from each mentor? And if you have 10 mentors, guess what? You're getting the top 10% or 1% of their advice. The top 1% of 10 people is much stronger than 100% of one person, because then you're getting the bottom 20%, 30% of their advice, and it might be bad advice for you, actually. So, yes, what you want to do is just stop. And I'm blowing up mentoring. I hope you think it's the opposite. Okay, it's really how you do it. So how can you help them? And I come about it with help, by the way. All right. So a call today, an executive called. She wanted my help on something. You know what I did before I asked on our agenda for business? I asked how she and her family were. We spent 45 minutes of the hour talking personal stuff, and I'm helping her get another job, right? And helping her son. That's more work for me. But then when she opened up the business side, she said, "Oh, I want to help you, blah, blah, blah. And let's be more deliberate." And we tied those 2 things together. So business, pleasure, family, it's all integrated. Don't look at it as separate. So quick data here, 97% of those with a mentor say they're valuable, right? So obviously 3%, like I told you, there could be bad mentors too, right? Not many of them, but they could be bad. I'm looking at my screen here, so I'm looking it off to the side, but 37% of professionals don't yet have a mentor. That's nuts, folks. Why not? Okay. And then 89% of those who would be a mentor, right, will also go mentor others. See, that's what I mean, folks. 9 out of 10 people will mentor others. Don't just be a mentee, be a mentor. And you could be a mentor to your mentor, actually. Like I said, it works both ways. You don't have to go seek another mentor, go mentor. Okay. So I want you to also think that 25% of employees who enrolled in the mentoring program got upgrades, right? Salary upgrades. And by the way, we rephrased that thanks to advice to Mike Mao, who, he works as a senior advisor to us. He's retired. I want to acknowledge Mike. He, suggested I speak here. He retired from the CIA in management and recruiting and diversity recruiting. And I listen to everybody, right? If it makes sense. So thank you, Mike. And versus think about the 5%. So that's a 5 to 1. 5 to 1 difference, right? And that's a mentoring program. That does not count informal mentoring. Most of mine are informal, actually. So you got to take that 25% and make that probably double, triple. And like I said, all of our clients come from referrals. 0% I've ever had to cold email anyone, all right, ever, all right? And 5 times more likely, all right? That's when mentees are more likely to be promoted 5 times than those without mentors. That ties into the last piece of data, actually, very similar. But remember, that's formal. This could add in informal. I think it's more than 5x. Okay. And then 89% of those with mentors believe their colleagues value their work. That's the whole thing, folks. The ones with mentors tend to really get more value than their peers. All right. Okay. And then 80%, 7% of mentors and mentees feel empowered. So not only that, folks, it makes you feel good. And you know what? I don't worry about my mentee saying I'm wrong. He's what, 15, 18 years younger than me. Um, but he saved me time by just simply, oh, you're going about it wrong. Here's what I would do, because we have that trust. When he says wrong, he's not telling me I'm a wrong person, I'm bad. Hey, my idea could be wrong. Look, if 2 + 2 can only equal 4, well, if I say it equals 5, then I hope he tells me I'm wrong. Here's why. If I go up on stage and I say 2 + 2 equals 5, I look like an idiot. So therefore, my mentor prevented me from doing idiocy, first of all, and doing it wrong and wasting all that time going down the wrong path. He saved me so much time. That's the beauty of it, folks. You have to be open to even a good mentor saying, that's wrong, because some things are wrong, okay? And there's no way to say it. There's no nice way to say it. It's just right or it's wrong. And I love him more for that, okay? And then 71% of people with a mentor say their company provides them with good opportunities to advance their career. See, it's correlated, okay? All right. And then 94% of employees said they would stay at a company longer. So guess what? It's a win-win, all right? It builds more retention and trust. And Mila, thank you. When you say in the chat box, if you're reading that, Mila said it builds more trust and relationships. Yes, it makes us better, right? To just be able to say you're wrong. And it's not an insult to me, it's a fact. That's and and here's the thing. When you have that trust and you're staying at a company longer with this 94%, it is a multiplier effect, which is there's trust upon trust, because people stay longer, have more trust with more people, okay? And then performance benefits, 84% help them avoid mistakes. I said that. It's not advancing, it's just not being worse. That's powerful, folks. Just not screwing up. Think about all the times you screw up, okay? Can you all reflect on this? Think about all the times you screwed up. What if you could eliminate some of those? You know what I mean? And not only do you screw up and it causes collateral damage, in your head, you're replaying it. All of us go, what if I have mistakes? What if I have mistakes? And it bothers you, it weighs on you. Well, what if you don't make the mistake? You don't have an anchor or an albatross sitting around your neck. That's all, okay? That's powerful. It's not just advancement, it's prevention of concrete feet, I'll say. We always worry about bamboo ceiling, glass ceiling as Asians. I'm gonna say this, what about concrete feet? That data I cited earlier in this presentation, that was not people holding back Asians. The company wanted to promote more Asians. It was Asians who held ourselves back. Let's not worry about glass ceilings and bamboo ceilings. Let's worry about concrete feet. And worry about ourselves first. We hold ourselves back. And you see the other two pieces of data here, right? So that's all key. And then finally, if you look at that, right? Only 14%, see, this validates, used "can you be my mentor?" The other 86% didn't say, will you be my mentor? Okay, it's just creepy, as some of you said. If you want to stalk someone, whoever said that, please do that, but they won't even know anyway. So if you look at it the other way, it develops naturally. That's really what happens. So the research now, we're finally getting more mentor research. That is the case. And that's why there is bad mentor advice, and there's bad advice on how to get a mentor, leverage the advice. And I will say that not all advice is good advice, okay? And then 73% said that they gain more confidence. That's the other thing, emotional. The more confident you are, the more shots you're going to take at basketball, football, but throwing in your resume in the hat. If you don't throw in your resume, the answer is an automatic no. All right, that's it. And then that's where the achievement is, right? Look at that 80%. Okay, it leads to more achievement. So we're not going to have time for instructions here. I know we started a few minutes late, and I've got about 6 minutes. So I want to keep you out on time, even though we started 6 minutes, 7 minutes late, because I want to get everyone back on track. You can feel free to share this PowerPoint deck. It's simple. It's this. And you can read the exact instructions. I'm a visual learner, and an 8-year-old can understand how we do things. We use the Feynman technique. We take the time. If you can't explain something to an 8-year-old, then you haven't mastered it. I force my team to do that. Even the smartest ones, if they have to use more jargon, more complexity, that's not going about it the right way in our company, at least. They have to explain everything to an 8-year-old. And then I'm assuming they know all the detail and complexity. So here's what it is. If you look to the right, mentoring should look like that. And we just put 4 light bulbs there. Each light bulb's an idea. Imagine that's could be thousands. Okay, mine would look like have thousands of stems, and they all merge into what? That middle there. That middle is you, the Michelangelo that should be carved, your inner self, the mentee, what you should be. That purple arrow is your best self. All the other ones are going to vary. And we have different colors for different mentees because different mentees have different perspectives. They're not all going to agree. You can put 1,000 mentors together. Sure, they'll agree on some things. There are other things they will actually disagree on. And that's okay. That's good. So think about it this way. If you were to literally map this out, think of this worksheet. Every time you talk to a few mentors, let's say you have a problem, you could print out this worksheet. I have a problem about, blah, blah, blah in my promotion, or I'm involved in some conflict in office politics. Okay. Pull out this sheet, print it. And then what you could do is say, this is what I would want. Start with yourself first. Do not start with the mentor first. Okay. What do you want out of it? How would you solve it? What advice would you give to yourself? As weird as it sounds, there's studies that show those who think in the third person when a problem is there become more objective. So if, Renee on this call, Renee, you want to say, what would Renee tell Renee to do? Okay. And then you answer that middle box actually before you approach any mentor so that you have a sense of what course you want. Okay. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter right now. Put that down before you seek someone else and get pulled in other directions. Then you could approach, let's say, 4 mentors about the problem, right? It doesn't have to be 4, it could be 2, 3, could be 5 or 6, but you want to do that and put their action on there. And then you're going to get catalog action, and it's in writing now. It doesn't swim in your head. And then you get distracted by the last mentor because psychologically, the most recent mentor will imprint on your space. They've done studies with interviews of 4 candidates. 50% of the time, the last candidate to be interviewed gets hired, by the way. The other high is the first one. The second and third candidate's the worst to be. So just as an FYI, you want to be first or last in the interview, preferably last. Same thing with the mentor. Don't let the last one bias you. Write down who you are and then each of theirs, and then go back and assess. And you've got 5 perspectives. Let's say in this model, you could have 3, you could have 6. There's a diminishing return after a while, but that's the multiplier mentor model. Okay. And then I'm going to end here because I know I've got 3 minutes left. Just a few more quick pieces of advice you can read in detail, but I'm going to read bold like a high school student or an 8-year-old, right? You want to expand and achieve. That's what mentors do, and expand and achieve. Be responsible. You know what? Follow up with the advice your mentors give. Tell them if you didn't listen to their advice. I actually will tell them. I'm like, you know what? I went with a different piece of advice. I appreciate yours. This is what happened, good or bad. Okay. Tell them that. Give them feedback. Willingness to explore. Most mentees are wonderful and do it. Some mentees don't take any advice. Okay. And then seek and have acceptance. Accept yourself. Accept that you're not always going to agree with your mentor. Put that out front and be accountable. Same with responsible. Have the follow through. Tell them what happened. If you gave someone advice, wouldn't you want to know what happened, whether they took your advice or not? And finally, readiness. These relationships help you to not predict the future, but prepare for the future. And then I'll pause there. We have some discussion questions, we could talk about, but we won't have time for that. This is normally a 90-minute presentation, or 60-minute at least, but got a minute left. I know I've answered some questions here, can answer maybe 1 or 2, and then we'll try to wrap up. So if you have questions, please feel free, or if I missed it in the chat box, copy and paste it. Thank you very much. And, can we do this? Let's unmute. And I want to thank all of you. Even though I'm the presenter, you've all presented by putting in the chat box. This is your fun time to unmute. Can you all unmute? Can you all give yourselves a big round of applause? Give Nap a thank you. Let's hoot and holler. Be kind of loud Asians for once. Okay. Like we're in a Chinese restaurant.
Loud Asian.
Yeah.
Wow, awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, pretend like I'm sitting in one of those old school Chinese restaurants with a bunch of Asians, right? We're not quiet in one of those, So awesome. I love the laughter. It's hard for me to present when I don't hear voices, so I love your laughter. I know we're at about 12:45. Bang, it's up to you. I don't want to make them late. Hopefully we'll have more time in the future, but thank you everyone. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pham, so much for this amazing presentation. Is there a way for people to contact you if they have further questions?
Yes, absolutely. Don't ask me to be your mentor. I'll laugh at you after this presentation. So I won't get mad at you. I will roll my eyes at you though. Okay, I put my email there. And Bang, if you want to send everyone an email just in case people had to leave and all that, feel free to share 2 things. You could share my presentation here and then my email as well. Okay.
Well, thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I did put in the chat the link to go back to the main room as well. Please go ahead to go to the portal, and the password is there.
Wait, can we do a picture?
Oh,
Didn't you guys
sure.
want to do a picture? Okay. Hit the stop sharing screen so we're all big.
Oh, hey, and if you're taking pictures, can I ask you, and this is a good reason to reach out to me too, if you need any advice, feel free. Can you send me that photo? Since I have my own presentation on the screen, so I'd love to have a photo with all of you too.
Yeah.
And you'll have my email there, so
Great.
please send me the photos. I'll post it on LinkedIn, give Nat some love.
And
Sean, are you going to take it?
Yep.
Okay.
Wait a second.
I think we need to minimize the screen so everybody's a little bit bigger because I only see 4 people.
Yeah, can we close the presentation? Let me see.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes. human
Yeah,
error.
so we can. Oh, here we go. Do we have everybody?
Now we
do we?
should.
Go to gallery view.
Yeah.
Gallery. Okay, yeah, I'm on it. So you guys ready?
Dave, Terrence, Ginny, don't be shy.
1, 2.
There we go.
Yeah, turn on your camera. I'll wait for you.
Turn on your camera.
Terrence,
Oh, so lovely. Ginny's cute.
waiting for Terrence. You
Terrence.
see Dennis. Dennis Michael. Okay.
Oh, where is he?
Oh,
There
and
he is. Ta-da!
Terrence. Okay, ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3. Okay, I got it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sean.
And
Okay.
connect with me on LinkedIn as well in case you missed the email. So love to hear from you. Congratulations on organizing another wonderful NLA. Have fun, enjoy this because these are rare opportunities, right, to connect with our people. So have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Vu.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Vu.
you. Thank you.